What's up, everybody? I'm Kelly Johnson, the host of the Daily Grind podcast, the official podcast of the Kelly Johnson Foundation. The goal of our foundation is to make a difference and share and support future leaders. Tune in today's episode and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple to stay up to date with all the content and events. Links are in the description. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Grind. My name is Kelly Johnson, your fun and friendly host. We're in episode 9 of season 7, the very best one yet. I'll keep the introduction short because we have a special guest on today's podcast. I'd like to introduce you to Brook Shepard, founder and CEO of Mason Interactive. Mason Interactive is a premium digital marketing where data, design, and strategy come together to drive exceptional results for clients. With over a decade of experience driving measurable results, Brook has established himself as a trusted partner for business looking to scale. Under his leadership, Mason Interactive has grown into a full-service agency that collaborates with clients in industries ranging from e-commerce to healthcare, leveraging cutting-edge technology and data-driven insights to deliver impactful campaigns. So welcome to the show, Brook.
Thanks. That's it. We're done. It's all good. Thanks. You got it perfectly.
Yeah, we have quite the intro for you. We are excited to learn more about your story, what you do. So, Brook, yes, I'm going to hand the mic off to you. If you can talk a little bit about yourself and your daily grind.
Sure. Thanks, Kelly. So my daily grind, I'm 49 years old. And I was talking to some of the staff here today. It's really interesting last night. When I started the company, I was in my 30s and they might have been in their late 20s. And we were of a different age, but we had similar things in common. And now I'm pushing 50 and they're still in their late 20s and it's a whole different ballgame. And one of the things, and I don't mean this derisively or negatively, but one of the things that's different is I try to start every single morning with reading. And I don't think that everyone, it's my experience that people don't do that in the way they used to or the way I was brought up. So my wife leaves the house at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. She's a high school principal in Brooklyn. My son doesn't get up until 7:30, so I have an hour there every morning that's mine. And I start with a cup of coffee. I usually follow it up with a Monster energy drink. I'm a highly caffeinated individual. And I try to read the front page of a bunch of different newspapers, a bunch of different points of view. I try to check Twitter, and I try to read fiction for half an hour every day. So that's the start of my day, and that centers me. And without that, sitting down with reading fiction for half an hour, I find that my days don't go quite as well.
Yeah, talk about the start to your daily grind, start to our show on the podcast here. We're all about feeling the grind with our caffeinated drinks. So I fully approve on the coffee side and energy drink here and there. You do you. Wonderful to hear, Brook. But tell us more about, since we are entrepreneurial minded show here, what made you want to found Mason Interactive? And was it a light bulb moment? Tell us more.
Yeah. So I got a job. I graduated from college and I worked on Wall Street. And then I worked in financial publications, and there was an arc that went from there into advertising. And I got a job at a company called Send Traffic, whose founders will admit they sort of by luck got into digital marketing very early. They were one of the first paid search agencies, and this is 2003 or 4. And I was working for them. And the company went public. The new owners, to be honest, got rid of all the top people, and so I went and got another job at a tech company that was in the advertising space. And it just left me cold. And I missed one of the things I like about an agency is how fast paced it is and all the different kinds of people you're meeting. So I was at that tech company for a year and a half, and they're on my LinkedIn. You can see who they are, but it wasn't a bad job. It just wasn't for me. And I decided that I had to start a new chapter in my life. My wife was pregnant with our first and only son. I thought it was a good time to do it. I was in my early 30s. I thought if I was going to fail, it was the time to do it then. And I just went gangbusters into the only thing I knew, which is what I've been doing earlier, which was advertising for, at the time, it was mostly advertising for schools. That's changed a little bit. But it really was, what do I enjoy doing? How do I stay intellectually and creatively engaged throughout the day? And what do I know best? And what I knew best was not working at a tech company, and I was not great at working on Wall Street. But what I was good at was establishing relationships with clients, specifically schools at that time, walking them through their goals and helping them hit those goals. So it was really like, what else am I going to do? Let's take a chance and do it. And my family was very supportive of me. I couldn't have done it without them. And that was 16 years ago. And now we're at 35 people between Brooklyn and Charlotte. We bought another agency in LA almost a year ago to the day. knock on wood, it can all fall apart tomorrow. But it really was, how do I just want to be happy during the day. I want to be intellectually engaged during the day and creatively engaged. What can I do? And the only thing that came to my mind at the time was starting my own advertising agency.
Yeah, that's really well said, Brooke. Talk about your service, your expertise, and experience coast to coast now. Perfect time when we have guests on the show. Congrats on 16 years and many, many more, and all the best to you and your team.
Thank you.
Really well said. Yeah. And speaking of expert in the room on today's show in this space, where would you say is like the ad market now? I mean, we're recording today, the week following Super Bowl, so everyone's on the minds in terms of marketing advertisements. Yeah, tell us more about the market in the present here.
Well, we're filming this in early February, if I'm allowed to say that. And I really
Mhm.
love what Duolingo is doing today, looping in Dua Lipa. I don't know if you're watching Duolingo, and they announced that their mascot had died.
Mhm.
Did you see that?
I literally came across that last night before I went to bed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny stuff. So I think one of the differences to talk about the landscape now, one of the differences is I think years ago, before iOS 14 and before the landscape got more competitive, there was a world in which if you were first to market with Warby Parker or Harry's Razors, or if you were first to market when a lot of these Wharton brands started, um, and you were good at meta ads, you could get to market and you could scale a business that way. I don't think that it was. I don't want to understate how complex that was. I know those are great brands, but it's a little bit different now. And one of the things that's different now is you have to diversify your mix beyond Meta and Google. If you're hoping to be a Meta and Google, you're not going to do. You're going to need more than that. And so, in about 3 weeks, I'll be at Ad Age, and I'm speaking with the client. I won't talk about their specific things they're doing, but I'll talk about the publicly available things, and it's related to Duolingo. So this client is Alexis Batar. They're a client of ours for, I think, 4 years. They're a jewelry company. He's got a great brand story about that company. But one of the things they've done is they've taken a new chapter, they've created a new chapter in their own business by creating a series of videos that are going viral. And by the way, I don't have anything to do with this. This is not what we're doing for them. But I bring it up because if you're in partnership with a company, I talk about how things are changing and how people are doing things right. They've got, in their own words, video about Margot, an emotional terrorist from the Upper East Side, and they're very funny, and they're not salesy, and they're little vignettes that come out every week on a specific time, and people queue up for them, and they're on TikTok and they're on YouTube, and they're really great videos. And what they're doing is building brand equity. And so what they've done is diversify beyond performance marketing in Google, which we handle for them, performance marketing in Meta, which we handle for them, and some other things, some programmatic stuff. And they're saying, all right, how can we go forward and try something new to get people's attention? It's not in what I call the duopoly of Meta and Google. And they're getting fresh eyeballs to their site by doing this great content, the same as Duolingo is doing right now. That's key. Diversifying yourself right now into different places is key. Because the way I think about this now is, and I didn't always think about it this way, if you're Alexis Batar and you're selling jewelry online, I don't know another way to look at it other than your orders are a function of people who added to cart, are a function of people who came to your website, is a function of how many people saw your ad. And I don't know that everyone looks at it that way today, but maybe they do. But that's the way I look at it these days. And so if you're getting more people to know who you are through wonderful, creative, quirky, intelligent, branded content, which is easier said than done, you're going to be a step ahead of the competition. Some other brand that's not doing that and is just saying, hey, I mean, all things being equal, if you've got two brands executing perfectly on Meta and Google, and one of those brands is also doing great creative TikTok videos, it's clear that that's the one that's going to be having more success. So where we are now is a space where we need to be creating more content than ever across more platforms to engage with users. It sounds obvious when I say it like that. And it was probably always true, but that's the biggest thing I see going on right now.
Yeah, really well said. Appreciate giving us a deeper dive into this space. Talk about consumers this day and age want to consume more content, but us as brands, businesses need to be evolving to the market, being competitive in our respective industries, and diversifying. And then at the end of the day, like you said, Brooke, what makes for a good ad?
Oh, that's a great question. So we do work with it depends on what your goals are. The I think that a good ad I think that there's a process you can follow to create ads, and it has to start with an idea, and it has to start with a spark. Once you've got a good ad, I think what a lot of my competitors will do today is say, all right, we're going to take our 5 best ads or our 6 ads or our 2 ads or our 4, whatever. We're going to take our ads and we're going to put them into Meta, and we're going to put them into Advantage Plus Shopping, which is a kind of campaign in Meta. And we're going to run it and we're going to see what wins, and that's great. I don't want to suggest that we don't do that, but I think you can go a step beyond that and really use data to do controlled testing to find out what works. And so let me give you an example of a client we have that sells, I know you like coffee. We talked about coffee. Let me give you an example of a client of ours, Taste Coffee Roasters. So it's what makes a good ad. So at the bottom of the sales funnel, there is a defined number of people that are at your bottom of your sales funnel. It might be defined by website visitors. It might be defined by past purchasers. It might be defined by lookalike audiences. Whatever it is, however you define it, there is a finite number of people at the bottom of your sales funnel. And so Taste Coffee Roasters, who sells compostable Keurig cups, I think they're about a 10-year-old business now. They've worked with us for a long time. They came to us and said, we need to get more at the bottom of our sales funnel. It's not performing as well as it was before iOS 14 changed. So what we did is we followed the best practices and we tried all their ads. We ran them. We saw what the best were. And then, and I can share a case study of this later, but then what we did was we isolated variables, because the first thing we tested in concert with the client was, we know what our best ad is. Let's isolate a variable and let's iterate on the picture in the center of the ad. Is it beans? Is it a compostable cup? Is it the logo? Whatever it is, let's keep everything the same and just do those. So this is publicly available. It's on our website. Their click-through rate, the rate at which they're creative at the bottom of the funnel, was turning into someone visiting their site was 0.5%. So we isolated variables and we said, let's just try a picture from their best ad. And that got us to something like 0.7%, from 0.5% to 0.7%. So now we have the best ad with the best picture. And then what we did, knowing that, is we tried different taglines. And we found out, keep everything else the same, but just change the taglines. We got to about 0.9%. Now we had the best ad, the best picture, the best tagline. Then we tried to find out what the best background color was that's in their brand hex codes, and so on and so forth. We went through this and we got their click-through rate from 0.5% to 2%. That's a huge increase at the bottom of your sales funnel. That's 4x the results from your most impactful part of your sales funnel, people who already know who you are that you're remarketing to. So what makes a good ad is a creative spark that you then let data drive the decision as you go forward and edit it and iterate on it and kick the ball in the air and see where it comes down and decide how to make it better. You really have to isolate variables to move forward to see what works. And from an agency perspective, I think one of the things we say is that everyone likes the idea of testing until they start testing. It takes patience to do that. It takes patience to say, I'm going to isolate these variables and do this. It's easier to say, oh, I saw someone on Twitter an X that has an ad hack. I'm going to try this new ad hack. There's no hacking. There's no shortcut. The way to make things work is to start with a good idea, measure it, and iterate on it piece by piece until you get better and better results for your clients.
Yeah,
sorry, that was long-winded, but that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, talk about walking us through each of the steps of the way. Data-driven, results-oriented here at your agency. We could probably talk for days, or I don't want to pinpoint on one ad, but is there an ad or ad campaign that you think that was really done well recently, or anything that you like to share on today's show as a good example for our listeners?
I'd like to. Well, yeah, from our own agency, we have a client who's a cosmetic clinic in Midtown Manhattan, and they specialize in working on men. The guy's pretty famous. He's on Howard Stern. He does pretty well. We were able to do a campaign for him that we pushed into billboards up and down 6th Avenue in Manhattan. So if you go up and down 6th Avenue in Manhattan along the most touristy corridor of that, from 23rd to 45th or something like that, you're going to see a series of billboards for this client. They're a little outre, they're a little risque, but we were allowed to post them. Everyone signed off on them. So we've got these huge 9-story ads talking about cosmetic surgery for men. And it's really transformed his business in a way that buying ads on Meta hasn't. and it's so old school. We bought a billboard, but we bought a series of billboards, and we can measure the impact of the guy's business, and it is doing better because of it. So I'm happy to share that in the link, some photographs. We've got a drone shoot of this thing going on, of these things going on later. But it was that was a big step for us, was to be able to push his business forward in a way. There's restrictions on a lot of things you can advertise in Meta that you might be able to get away with in the real world if you're dealing with something a little more risque and a little more personal. So that's a cool campaign that we're thrilled to be part of.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, talk about thinking outside the box, and then yeah, literally everyone in that space can see. Great example for today's episode. In terms of Brooke, the process of getting an ad, from pre-production to stages to launch. Can you also walk us through in the lens of how that works?
A lot of it depends on the client's appetite. I mean, generally what we're doing is we're going to find a problem that we want to solve for, and then do a creative brief. One of the things we like to do at the company is to take a look. If you ask most of our clients and most of the prospects the sales team talks to, do you have enough creative? Most of them are going to say yes. And so one of the things we like to do is to prepare a matrix of the current state of your advertising and what the future state could be. So what does that mean? That means that you need square, rectangle, video for Meta. It means you need a series of text ads for Google. It means you need a 5, 10, and a 15 and a 30-second video for YouTube. It means you need audio ads for podcast. It means you need print. You need all these things. If time and money were no object, that's what you do. And so it's the current state of your ads versus what you could do. But of course, time and money are an object. So then you want to talk with the client about if we think that the number of enrollments for a school is a function of how many people enroll. Just go back to this. It's a function of how many people applied. It's a function of how many people that filled out a form asking for information. It's a function of how many people came to the website. It's a function of how many people saw an ad or an image about the website. If we think about that and we look at the state of someone's creative matrix, what we want to do is identify the places where we can make the most impact with the client's budget. Everyone's budget's limited somehow. Where we can drive the most impact with limited budget. And then what happens is we say, okay, we'll proactively go to the client and say, okay, I think you need more YouTube ads, or I think your video is too focused on the features of your product instead of the benefit. And so getting a client's buy-in on that, putting together a brand or a creative brief that the client can sign off on, and then our whole creative team then begins to execute on it and push it forward. It really, to answer your question, starts with let's identify gaps in your current marketing strategy and your current advertising strategy. Let's develop consensus on how we can move forward and why we need these things. Let's do a brief that you agree with, and then let's just begin to crank it out, dude. Let's just begin to get this stuff out in market and see what responds and iterate on it.
Yeah, that's great. And then, yeah, at the end of the day, be successful and have those for them to achieve their short-term, long-term goals, what they have KPI metric-wise. Really well said, Brooke. In terms of, again, evolving industry, fasting change in technology here, do you think AI will become more relevant in the advertising industry?
I think that's great. Good question. I think that the average client might not be aware of how much agencies are using AI already. And the other part of that is there was an article in The Economist, and I think the Wall Street Journal had it as well. It was in June of last year. And what it said was that the expected benefit to the economy from AI hadn't materialized. Unless you were NVIDIA and you were making chips, the expected benefit to the rest of the economy hadn't come up. And so the way I think, and I think that's probably right, and the way I think about that is part of our sales process, talk about AI, part of our sales process is referrals, part of it's advertising, part of it's trade shows, part of it's relationships, and part of it is doing RFPs. So it used to be that we would take, I'm going to make these numbers up, 2 weeks to do a request for proposal response, an RFP response. And now we can do them with AI. We can now, instead of doing them in 2 weeks, do them in 3 days. So why isn't that turning into productivity in the economy as a whole? It's because, Kelly, every other agency is also using AI to do these things. So we're not competing against AI. We're competing against other agencies who are also using AI. What we're using it for, so that's my first thing. The second thing is we are so leaning into AI right now because one of the things we can do as an agency that a client can't, there's 2 steps to this. is we can use AI to look at all of the ads a client's run in the last year and say, what are the commonalities and to the winners and the losers in the ads we've run over the last year. No human is going to be able to do that. So we can take your ads, we can dump them into motion, we can export them, and we can do a test, or we can do a scan with AI to say, I didn't know this, but if you look at everything over the course of the whole year, it turns out that 3/4 frontal shots with a light background outperform for a client, which we didn't know because it's a million ads. It's 300 ads over the last year, and you can use AI that way to take a look at really what's working long term. What we can do beyond that as an agency is then take those ads and put them against all the other clients we have in our portfolio and say, what are the winners of other clients doing that this client might not be doing? And we can use benchmarks. So clients often ask about benchmarks. We're using AI all the time to take a look at all of our clients' creative and say, how does this client's creative compare to this client's creative in success metrics like click-through rate and conversion rate? And we can offer that value. And we really couldn't do that without AI. I guess if we had 4 data scientists working on it. But so no, we leverage AI all the time. What we don't use it for is writing content. What we do use it for is analyzing data that we've already done and ideas we've already had and driving it forward. And I think if any agency isn't using it, they're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, I was going to say, setting the bar higher and higher within the industry, like a barrier to entry in a sense to stay competitive, to even line up to the starting line at the end of the day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. What would you say, I guess maybe looking back though, Brooke, like the difference between, AI and then like the computer graphics animations, what has been used before? Has that been a significant jump too as well in the industry?
Yeah, you can make things more quickly. Yeah, look, you can use voice prompts to say, I want to do 5 iterations. Yeah, what it's really great for is when you're doing a pitch. It used to be that we'd have to depend on illustrators, and I actually like working with illustrators internally, but like we did a creative pitch for our client Italy. Italy is people don't know, Italy is a multinational restaurant luxury chain that we work with. And if in the past, if we wanted to do a creative pitch for them, we could do storyboards and we could bring that to the office. What we can do now is we can leverage AI tools to show them what it would actually look like very quickly. We wouldn't make that the final published result, but we're able to iterate through. In the time it used to take us to do 3 campaign ideas, now we can do 6, and they can be realized in photorealism, which is easier to digest. So yeah, we're using it all the time. It makes everything a lot faster. What do you use it for? How often do you use AI in your life each day? Are you like, is it all day long with you? Is it like, what do you personally in your daily life?
Sure. Yeah. Really great question. And talk about too, again, it's all about the numbers as well. Just continue to buy ourselves 1% each and every day. We speak that on the podcast, and it also applies, in advertising and every other space. But yeah, in terms of from a personal or team perspective, ChatGPT is a great, back pocket, what we use to, again, review backgrounds, guests on the show, brands that we work with, businesses that we collaborate with, but then also to initial like pre-reads on how we want to level up our events and programming for our nonprofits. So when it comes to press releases, what are different nuggets or keywords that we can integrate into our words from an SEO perspective, or even, up to, again, elevate our game in terms of our social media presence and online. So I think everyone has a unique purpose or prioritizing AI technology to hopefully have positive results at the end of the day. But I think from a personal perspective, I think it's helping us improve our way of life in our daily grinds, respectively.
Well, I know you interview a lot of people in the sports world, and you have a lot of athletes on your podcast. So I follow the football soccer team Chelsea pretty closely, and one of the things I always wonder about with Chelsea, who finished last year in an okay place against all odds, and this year seems to be struggling to maintain their form with a new coach. I always wonder, does that coaching team use AI to say, did this formation work? Or are they leveraging that data, or are they just saying, no, I know the answer. I'm a genius who worked with Pep, and I'm gonna do what I think's right. And I don't know in the case of Chelsea if they're doing what I think they should be doing with their AI. But yeah, you have to get a little bit better each day. 1% better each day is a good goal.
Yeah, really well said. Yeah, we'll have to integrate, have you on our guest panel, our co-host here when we interview our next pro athlete. put that in the queue or something. But it's really interesting, and it'll be, today's only 2025, but next year ahead and 2 years after, like you mentioned too, even with your agency, like you've gone through the ebbs and flows and the different opportunities or things open up. So curious to see best is yet to come, as we said on the podcast. But yeah,
I sure hope so.
yeah, I hope it's going the right direction. But yeah, speaking of that future outlook, Brooke, like
Yeah.
what do you say like the future of advertising is for us? Do you have any like bold
Oh,
predictions, things that we see from a
I,
consumer perspective?
I think there's no way that these things, these ridiculous things, don't get monetized a little differently. I don't think these are good for society. I fear the world where my wife and son and I are all sitting on the couch in Brooklyn and we're all watching different movies at the same time, pretending we're together. But in fact, I'm watching Star Trek and she's watching House Hunters and my kid's watching UFC and we're not actually together at all. But that's got to be monetized a little differently. They're not doing that yet. I think for the way I think about that is more narrow. I think about my own agency, and so I think about when I think about the future of my agency, my livelihood, and I'm obsessed with providing value for my clients. It keeps me up in the middle of the night. I think about creative being more and more important in what we're doing. So we're a mid-sized or small boutique, independent, self-funded agency. And so what's going to set us apart in how we're dealing with the other people? Because when I started doing this 16 years ago, there weren't a lot of us, and now there's more of us. So how do I set ourselves apart? And what I don't want to do for my own practice is a race to the bottom. I have no interest in being the cheapest pair of shoes that anyone's ever bought. I don't want to be the most expensive pair of shoes, but I want to provide good value for a good price. And there's different levers to pull in advertising now than there were 20 years ago or were 10 years ago. I think that Google and Meta are going to continue to leverage the power of AI in their own ad platforms. And so I think that they're going to be changing even more the levers that we as advertisers can pull. And I don't see a world in which creative isn't the most important part of that. I can't imagine bigger agencies than me are saying, well, it's going to be data, and we're working on data too. We're working with tenured professors at Ivy League schools to come up with our proprietary data models, which we're going to announce soon. But I don't see a world in which creative isn't more and more important for an agency. And getting a client to buy into that. I know you have a lot of entrepreneurs on your show, and I've listened to a bunch of your episodes. The challenge from our perspective is to get the client to buy into it. We went back to the idea of testing. The creative is really important, and we have to let the data drive that decision. We can go with our guts, but ultimately the gut has to be signed off on or proven by the data. So when I think about my agency, I think about more and more creative work for clients, because I don't see any way we're going to continue to grow and compete if we don't focus in on that.
Yeah, really well said, Brooke. Yeah, speak about your career and your experience in this space. We've done our research on the podcast, Mason celebrating $1 billion in ad budgets managed. So all about celebrating the wins on today's episode. But again, looking at your agency, the future outlook here, what do you want the impact or legacy of Mason Interactive to be?
Oh, wow. No one's ever asked me that. What do I want the legacy and the impact of Mason Interactive to be? I try really hard to think about how the company will survive without me. I'm not going anywhere. We're not currently for sale. At some point I'd like to not work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I enjoy my job, but I'd like to do it. So I'd like to have the company. I think a lot about putting in place the people, and I think we've got them, and the processes which we're working on to survive me. I would like the legacy to be, I built for myself selfishly, that I built a company that lasts for a long time and is independent and is true to my own personality, as quirky or as aggressive or as nice or as pleasant or whatever that is, that moves forward, and that we're honest with people. I think there's a lot of people in our space who aren't honest, and I think there's no reason in life not to be honest with people and to be truthful with people. And when I try, I'm not a religious person at all, but I try a lot to think about the golden rule and do unto others as you would have done to you. I'd like to be a place where I have people that worked here 15 years ago that are now the head of internal advertising at Electronic Arts. I'd like to think that people have gone to great success at Google that used to work here that I stay in touch with. I'd like to think those people would look back and say, hey, when I worked with Brooke, He really gave me open and sincere feedback. He really treated me as I'd like to be treated. And I did the same, and I gave him open and sincere feedback, and I treated him like I'd like to be treated. If I can have people think that about me when I'm no longer running the company, I'll take that as a huge win. I know that's not a grandiose statement, but I would take that as a huge win.
Yeah, talk about holding true to the values, that integrity, that innovation in collaboration with your team at the end of the day. Really well said, Brooke. So in closing here, we talked about your daily schedule. You have quite the grind going on here, leading the charge of Mason Interactive. What's on your daily grind? What's on your later this year, 2025?
Well, on a personal level, I'd like to continue to play more guitar. My wife and son and I are going to Albania. My wife's Albanian. My son's never been to Albania. His culture is important to him, so we're going to go to Albania for a little bit over the summer. That's going to be awesome. On a professional level, I want to work with more colleges that are impactful. It's really a lot of fun to work, and I love our fashion brands. And if any of them are listening, I love you too, fashion brands. Um, we work with fashion brands, we work with schools. I think that's because those are two things that I like. We work with other things. We have other clients, but most of our clients are either fashion, luxury brands, or schools. Um, Education is a great levelizing force in our society. It is a rising tide that lifts all boats, and it's a pleasure to work with schools and universities whose goal is to better the society that they're in. That's really rewarding work when you know that you've helped a school stand out against a bigger competitor or even against a for-profit competitor and been able to rise up. So professionally, we're speaking at Ad Age in a few weeks. We're going to continue to add on new services to our agency in the form of affiliate marketing. We are going to release a proprietary data model that's based on those billions of dollars of spend that I think will help clients with attribution. But I want to work with more brands that I enjoy working with, that I enjoy talking to, that push me and strive to make me better while I'm trying to make them better. And we can grow together. And I just love working with brands that are trying to make the world a better place, as cheesy as that sounds.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Safe travels ahead. We're jealous. I always write down notes on where everyone goes to see if I can end up in that direction one of these times or one of these episodes. We wish you all the best continued success with you and your team.
Thank you.
At Mason Interactive, and we enjoy talking to you on the show here.
Thank you.
Brooke, story very inspiring on today's show. Do you have a word of the day to motivate our listeners out there, or even a quote, saying, mantra?
Do I have? Yes, my mantra is left foot, right foot. That I can't control what happens to me during the day. I can control my processes. My mother would say you can only control your outlook, not what happens to you. I'm not sure I agree with my mother, but she might be onto something. My mantra is left foot, right foot. No matter what is happening, and I know you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. There are things that happen as an entrepreneur that are crushingly difficult. Your biggest client fires you 10 years ago when you're on the way to Cape Cod. Your key employee leaves because they're not seeing enough growth 15 years ago. For all those things, I also have these great things that make me very proud, like people that left here that came back after 3 years away because they thought they had more of a chance to learn and grow here, and they felt more respected here. And the only way to get through those crushing things and to look forward to better times is left foot, right foot. Head down, keep walking, left foot, right foot, walk through it, grind through it. There's no other way to do it, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that quote, the words of wisdom here, fit perfectly with your story. What encompasses what you're doing here out the world, inspiring us on today's show, but really making a difference in this space and leveling us up at the end of the day in our daily grinds, respectively. Brooke, last but not least, if listeners have questions, comments, want to get in touch with you, want to learn more about Mason Interactive, how can they do so?
That's a great question. We can go to masoninteractive.com/thedailigrind, masoninteractive.com/thedailigrind. We'll have an offer there. It's $1,000 off of your first month of advertising if you qualify. Fill out that form. I will talk to you myself if you fill out that form. And that's the best way to get in touch with us.
Wonderful. Yes, we'll put in the show notes where to find Brooke, where to find Mason Interactive. As always, thanks again for tuning today's episode. A big thank you to Brooke for being on the podcast. Thanks again for tuning to today's episode. In the meantime, be sure to follow us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Daily Grind Pod, and follow our podcast on Spotify and Apple to stay up to date with all of our content and events. Links are in the description. Also, check out our new YouTube channel for exclusive content, including video interviews and highlights from our nonprofit events. Search for Daily Grind Podcast or just follow the link in the description. Lastly, head over to our website, www.kjfwi.org, to shop our merch. Thanks for supporting the grind, and we'll catch you next time. As always, keep grinding.